Hello, and welcome to Community Voices, where we talk to Humboldt County's movers and shakers. Today's guest, Keenan Hilton, planner, Housing Forward Humboldt. And now here's your host, Paul Bressoud.
Welcome to Access Humboldt's Community Voices. I'm your host, Paul Bressoud, and today we're with Housing Forward Humboldt's Keenan Hilton. Keenan, before we start, I'd like to ask, well, first, I'd like to welcome you to the show. Secondly, I'd like to ask, as I do all my guests, what is your title and what are you doing for the organization?
Sure. So, my name's Keenan Hilton. I am a planner and I work in the Humboldt County Planning and Building Department. And one of the projects that I am working on is an initiative by the county that is called, that we've titled Housing Forward Humboldt. And I can provide details on that now or in a minute.
You should do it now. That's why you're on the show.
Okay, perfect. So as I mentioned, Housing Forward Humboldt is it's an initiative of the planning department. It's an effort within the department to shift our approach towards housing to more towards an approach of partnership with the community. I think that traditionally the planning and building department has been perhaps the role has been somewhat more of a gatekeeper, an obstacle between you and your projects. And given the state of housing in within the state of California and within Humboldt County, it really became imperative for us to get creative and to align the way that our processes work and our programs work to get in line with some of these state goals to make development of housing a more streamlined and a friendlier process. And that really is what Housing Forward Humboldt is. We're trying to increase the supply of housing in the county and encourage housing that's affordable.
So there you go. And that's my question. You're going to have a variety of housing needs, as you probably already do at the moment. And then as things change, Humboldt Poly coming to town, more people coming to this area, people that are climate refugees, people that are equity immigrants, I call them, that are able to move, people that are able to move anywhere in the country because they're able to do work. You also have homelessness issues and examples like that. So there's a wide range of housing problems. I mean, are you prioritizing them? How are you tackling them?
Yeah. So, you just named, I think, some of the central challenges that the community is facing. Like you said, the ones that we know are the Polytechnic University. We all know that the pressure that's going to put on the housing market locally is not going to be contained to Arcata. Say doubling of the student body, that is going to affect the whole region. Also, as we all know, the crisis of people experiencing homelessness and really needing to have a conception of housing and expand that to also look at shelter. Of course, keeping our eyes set on the goal of having a completely housed community, but also not being in denial about the state that we find ourselves in today. In addition to those, although these are not things that we can take for granted, they are things that we need to plan for, and that includes the Nordic Aqua Farm project and the potential development of offshore wind. As you mentioned, the uncertainty that goes along with climate change. Basically, we need to be prepared to produce more housing in Humboldt County, and it is going to take a variety of approaches. And in our housing element, which is one component of the general plan, which the general plan is the county's overall approach towards our vision of the future. The housing element is a state required part of the general plan that gets updated between every 5 and 8 years. And we, I think have a very forward-looking housing element that was approved in August of 2020. And the initiatives that are included in it are varied. And it is within the umbrella of Housing Forward Humboldt, we've got a number of different projects that tackle the issue from a couple different ways. A couple of these are really just bringing our project goals into alignment with what the state has already affected. There's a lot of movement happening right now with housing at the state level. And then we've also got initiatives like, from pre-approved plans to working on an ordinance for safe parking, to providing density bonuses, depending on the type of housing that you're building. We really have a wide array of different types of programs. And I think that what prompted Access Humboldt to contact us was that we're advertising right now a series of workshops that are workshops highlighting some of these different areas that we want to really bring the community's attention to and start that community conversation and help people to be able to take advantage of some of these, including a multifamily rezone project, different resources for potential developers, present and future developers, and then also accessory dwelling units.
Let me call timeout, for God's sakes. I gotta ask some questions based on that. You're excited about your job. I mean, before I started asking formal questions, is every county in California looking at this type of increase? Are they thinking that way, or is it just the coastal communities that are in these times where more people are moving in than they may have thought or may have the infrastructure to handle? I mean, is this a phenomenon that's happening, or is this us right now? Is this Humboldt County specifically?
So, I mean, I think that the answer to that is to some extent both. If you look at the website for the California Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD, they now are taking a pretty hard look at the state of housing. And the figure that I hear cited is that they think that due to a variety of reasons, a lot of which is kind of the restrictive zoning and also environmental review process and among others, that this has slowed down housing production in California for decades. And the number that I've heard cited is that they think we're at a 3.5 million unit deficit. It's definitely in the millions. And that is an issue that we face as a state. So this is not something that is just unique to Humboldt County. I do think that some of the issues that we highlighted at the beginning are absolutely community specific. And, and some of the solutions are ones that the state is basically telling all jurisdictions in California, hey, these are changes for all of you. We all need to make it easier to develop housing within the state of California. And then there are some initiatives that really are, that came up from Humboldt County and are sort of tailored to our specific situation.
Okay, how much housing are you projecting that Humboldt County is going to need, say, in the next year, 5 years?
So within the next year or 5 years, the way that I can frame this is that the basis of the housing element, and I know that a lot of times with the terminology, it's a little, it can be a little wonky. And so please do stop me if I sound like a planner that can only be understood by planners. But
It's all right, man.
basic.
You're the experts.
The starting premise, kind of where we get started from, is the regional housing needs allocation, or it's frequently called the RENA. And this comes from the California Department of Housing and Community Development. And what they do is they look at all sorts of different factors. They're looking at number of jobs, how close people live to their jobs, what are the projections for people moving there, what's going on with demographic shifts. And then they tell you, hey, this is how many units we think you're going to need for very low income people, for people with a low income, people with a moderate income, people with above moderate income. And they do this for every jurisdiction, every county and every city. And it is on the scale of, that's 5 to 8 year window. Within the unincorporated area of Humboldt County, we have a number that is 1,413. And so that includes 351 very low income, 223 low income, 256 moderate income, and 583 above moderate income. So really at every single income bracket, we need to be producing hundreds of units. Now, the county at this point is not in the business of actually developing the housing. What we do is we create the regulatory field, and we administer the processes, and we can introduce programs. And so that is really what we're looking at trying to do to enable people to be able to build that many units. That's the target.
Let me ask this question. I mean, you have regulatory law and environmental law for a reason, right?
Absolutely.
And streamline it because of a need, which I don't know if that's a desperate situation or what. If you're going to streamline it, is there a danger? Is there a fine line between making the right types of decisions and the wrong types of decisions based upon where that housing goes, how that housing is constructed, what the infrastructure is, what floods, this, that, all those aspects that were why regulatory law was put in the first place. Is there a danger of running that over?
So those concerns and the reasons why we established the regulations in the first place, those are critical. Those are really important. And yeah, absolutely. I really don't think that, that it would be good to throw all of the regulations to the side. I think that really what we're doing is we're just trying to look for the opportunities to make it easier and to adapt. And when I say make it easier, I don't mean make it easier to build regardless of set and setting environmental conditions. We're still looking at stream side setbacks. We're still looking at wetland concerns. We're still it's not that the rules are going away. It's just that we're saying, where are the pain points that we can make less painful? What are the points in the bureaucratic process that don't need to be scary or cumbersome in the current way that they are?
Is this a planner's dream or a planner's nightmare to be in this spot right now when the need is great, when the regulations have to be streamlined, when to merge all of these issues at once? Is this why you got into it?
Of course, I can only speak for myself. Of course, what motivates me is it really is the notion of public service. And when there is a pain point in the community, to be part of a response that feels like a responsible and realistic turning toward that pain point. And so, is there a lot going on? Absolutely. But no, I'm really excited to be part of it.
Let's talk about specifics of a community solution. Tell me about the multifamily rezone project.
Fabulous. So the multifamily rezone project, that was one of the topics of a workshop that we gave on February 1st. And it was intended for property owners in the unincorporated areas of Humboldt County, outside of the cities. And we had good attendance. We had about 50 people come. And really what it is, it's trying to identify places that are suitable that currently don't allow multifamily, but where multifamily could be an appropriate use, and then to do the rezone process to allow that development by right. And the special thing about this multifamily rezone process is that the county is actually underwriting the costs of changing the zoning. So if you qualify, and there are, I mean, to your point about, we don't want to see every type of development everywhere. There are absolutely, it's not any parcel. There are criteria that you need to meet to qualify. But if you have a qualifying parcel, then there is the potential that you could get the rezone paid for by the county. And there are two pathways. One is the low income inventory of parcels. And these are parcels that have been identified as, I believe they all have water and sewer, and, all environmental concerns and environmental constraints need to be, looked at carefully and dealt with on a case by case basis. And then the other pathway is SB 10. And this is Senate Bill 10. It was approved, I think it was last year. and this changes by right development of up to 10 units if you're on a qualifying parcel in an urban cluster. An urban cluster, again, and it's getting wonky, but that's a census designation. Parts of McKinleyville, parts of Cutton and Myrtletown, parts of Humboldt Hill, among other communities, are within urban clusters. And so, if anyone is watching this and lives in one of those communities and is interested to see if their parcel would qualify, I'd recommend going to the Humboldt County Planning and Building website. We've got a web page dedicated to it, and there's a form to fill out if you're interested. And then you could also watch the workshop that we gave. It's on YouTube. The County of Humboldt is actually entering the 21st century, and we have a YouTube channel.
A lot of breaking news here today.
What was that?
A lot of breaking news here today.
Yeah, that's right. And so you can experience the wonders of the workshop from the comfort of your living room. And we've got a great, extremely capable staff person, Michelle Nielsen, who is the point of contact and who can answer any of your questions and all of the questions that you didn't even know you had. And really, this was multifamily is one of the zoning districts that was identified that in the unincorporated areas, we just don't have enough parcels that are zoned for that in order to meet these needs. I mean, we're talking about the ability to build thousands of units, and, in the context of climate change, in the context of where there is service for water and sewer, multifamily is an important piece of that puzzle. And so that really is the angle behind it.
Sorry, let me clarify something for the folks. Just a bit of a civics lesson here. You keep referring to the unincorporated areas. That means they're outside the jurisdiction of an incorporated city, and that's the county's jurisdiction.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that.
Well, I did teach it for 30 years, so I wanted to make sure people knew. They're not talking about, Arcata and Eureka and Fortuna, they're going to, as incorporated cities, they're going to come up with their own plans for such things. You're speaking about county areas And when you mean unincorporated, not that they're not governed, but they're county areas and they're not part of an incorporated city. If I was I am a person, but I mean, if I was a person that was interested in this, I would say, wow, the government, the county's going to pay my fees. The county's going to expedite regulatory law. Why don't they do this all the time with other issues? Why is this such a need, and is the demand so great, and you're trying to get ahead of it, that you're doing something that, maybe government usually doesn't do?
Yeah. So this absolutely. I think that both with, as we talked about, seeing the projects on the horizon in Humboldt County, and then also really the state setting the table for this, that there are things that we have to do, like that law that I referred to, SB 10. That is the state saying, hey, if a parcel meets certain criteria, people can build on it. There was another law recently, SB 9, that in those same urban cluster areas, if you want to build a duplex, again, there are environmental constraints. It's not just in every case, but in many, many cases, state law just tells us you can now build a duplex. And so really, to a large extent, part of what we're doing is just bringing ourselves into alignment with state law. And I saw a time warning, and I would be absolutely remiss if you don't mind me talking a little bit about accessory dwelling units as another.
I was hoping we could do accessory dwelling units.
Wonderful. So accessory dwelling units, commonly referred to as mother-in-law units, granny flats.
Ernie Cato, man, mother-in-law, the famous New Orleans hit.
Yeah, so these are really a centerpiece of our initiative, and we've seen some other jurisdictions in California just really have a lot of success with ADUs. I think in Los Angeles, which of course, LA is a very different context than here, but I think it was like something like half of their building permits that they issued for residential units in 2020 was for ADUs. And so this is the softest possible increase in density, where you're adding, a cottage in the backyard. You're converting one of your bedrooms to be a unit complete with a little kitchenette and a bathroom. You're converting your garage. This is a great place, of course, for the classic mother-in-law. You have an aging parent, have them close, but give them their own space. A kid comes back from college, same deal. Or if you just need a little help with the mortgage, getting a little rental income on your property. And so we see enormous potential for ADUs to help us meet these goals. And we have a workshop coming up. And if you want to learn more about accessory dwelling units, and if you can build one, and what it would look like, and what the potential stumbling blocks are, and how we're going to help you avoid them, and know exactly what you're getting into, on April 13th. So in just under 2 months, we are going to hold a workshop, and we're going to be, sending out emails about this. We're going to have it on our website. And this is going to be a highlighting of different resources and tools. This is going to be a guidebook that walks you through from imagining it all the way to resources on becoming a landlord. This is us giving you a GIS tool to be able to see if you can develop it on your parcel. This is us presenting you with an ADU calculator that will give you a rough picture of what the costs are going to be and what the revenues are going to be. We are just trying to pull the curtain back on what the process is of developing one of these things, so that you can know on the front end exactly what the challenges and opportunities are, and decide if it's the right choice for you.
Wow. So let me ask you this question. Fantastic. Last question as we wrap it up. The county has ramped things up to this level where they send their most excited planner to come on the TV and explain this thing. Are cities doing it as well? Is Eureka doing it? Is Arcata doing it? Are they going ahead and are they going to streamline? And then is there going to be some sort of conversation between the city and the county? I mean, you're talking about there's going to need to be transportation for people, infrastructure of that need. I mean, is this a coordinated effort?
So as an example of the coordination, that ADU calculator is something that is not just unincorporated county, but several of the cities have contributed to that. And so it's not just going to be for the areas on the outside of city limits. You're going to be able to look it up for Eureka. You're going to be able to look it up in Arcata, because the conditions do vary a bit depending on where you are. Arcata, I'm not an expert in their plans, but perhaps you've heard of the Gateway plan. Absolutely. This is Arcata looking forward towards the future demands of housing. Eureka with the different developments planned in some of the parking lots. If this has been in the news, this is Eureka implementing their housing element. So absolutely, all of the cities are in this, and we're all looking at those same regional challenges that we highlighted earlier in the conversation.
Well, right on. I hope when they get people looking at them, they're all as excited as you. Keenan Hilton from Housing Forward Humboldt, thank you so much for joining us here on Access Humboldt's Community Voices. And, you'd be perfect as this goes on down the line to check back in with you sometime. So we'll call you. So for Access Humboldt Community Voices and our guest, Keenan Hilton, this is Paul Bressoud saying goodbye.
This has been Community Voices with your host, Paul Bressoud. If you represent a nonprofit organization and are interested in being a guest on Community Voices, send an email to info@accesshumboldt.net or call 476-1798. Access Humboldt, local voices through community media.